BizSchool is brought to you by Neon Canvas. Neon Canvas is a digital marketing boutique. You can find more about Neon Canvas at neoncanvas.com. Welcome. Here it goes. This is the fourth episode of BizSchool with Alex Rasmussen. I'm going to be teaching you all things business, and I'm really excited about our show today because we're going to be talking about money, one of my favorite subjects, one of your favorite subjects, with my good friend Bill Freeman from Paragon Bank. Now, most of us work to make money, and it's very difficult to run and grow in business without it. So I'm going to bring on my banker, Bill Freeman, who's been an integral piece in our growth and our success. Bill makes it so that we don't have to worry about money, and we're going to chat about how you can set up your business for success with a great banking partner. So on the show tonight, we're going to discuss what you should look for in a banking relationship, what is good debt and what is bad debt, what banks are looking for in a business banking relationship, and we'll have a quick discussion around COVID-19 and PPP loans. So the show today is all about money and what it takes to keep your business in a sound financial position. We talked in the second episode about bootstrapping versus bank loans and how we started Neon Canvas by bootstrapping profits. What we did not tell you is that each month we would nearly drain our entire cash position in order to pay our team, our expenses, and ourselves. One of the first decisions we made was that we would manage as monthly expenses as possible, as many of those monthly expenses as possible on our American Express card. There are a couple of benefits to this method if you can be disciplined and not overspend. The first key is to pay off that card in full each and every month. We had to make sure that we had enough money in the bank to cover that bill, and we didn't want to accumulate high interest on the card. Instead, we wanted to spend on that card interest-free and have all of our expenses in one place, making it easy to manage those items. This also takes care of the concern around your daily cash position in your bank. So lastly, we benefit from the points that we get, and we can redeem them for other things like cash and travel and other neat things. So to catch all of this and for the expenses not to be paid with the American Express card, there's two things that you should never be putting on your credit card, and that's payroll and taxes. You can pay taxes on a credit card, but we definitely do not recommend that. If you work in a business where you need to outlay cash to employees or vendors and you've not realized enough accounts receivable to cover those costs, you're going to need a line of credit. So when we started Neon Canvas, we actually went to a large bank here in Tennessee, and we were essentially turned down for a small line of credit. We weren't asking for much, about $30,000. Our credit scores were great. Our business plan was solid, but the bank, for whatever reason, did not believe in us. Now, we decided ultimately to go with the bank that was in our parking lot, and after about a year, we realized that they weren't going to be a good partner either. Around this time is when I was introduced to Bill Freeman from Paragon Bank, and everything changed for us almost overnight. Warren Buffett said, "It's only when the tide goes out that you discover who's been swimming naked." And I think that's a really, really great way to look at how you're running the business. Because when the tide goes out, when all of the cash flows out of your business and you've got bills due or payroll due or accounts receivable due, and you're standing there naked, you can find yourself in a lot of trouble. And that's how businesses fail. People find themselves in debt. It becomes a snowball that just builds and builds and builds until they've got too much to get out of. So we never wanted to find ourselves in that position. And that's why such a key banking relationship was important to us. So I'm going to introduce Bill. Bill is a native of the great state of Florida and a graduate of the University of Florida, Go Gators. He moved to Memphis in 1994 to work for Goldsmiths as a department manager. After realizing that retail was not his game, he moved to First American Bank as a customer service rep. And through the years, Bill has worked his way up in the banking industry and is now first vice president of commercial lending at Paragon Bank, a local Memphis bank with a footprint across the greater Mid-South and an SBA presence nationwide. Bill lives as an empty nester in Collierville with his wife, Krista, and their two boys are down in Starkville, Mississippi at Mississippi State. Go Dogs. So, Bill, tell me about your background, how you ended up in commercial lending.
Hey, Alex. Well, thanks for having me. So after working in the retail side of banking from 1994 or 1996, going to become branch manager in 2004, I wanted to get out of the retail side of banking and went into construction lending for a couple of years in from 2004 to 2007, which was, as we all know, a phenomenal time in retail or in real estate. But when the real estate economy started tanking in 2008, I decided to make the move into commercial lending where I could focus on C&I customers, commercial and industrial customers, as well as any other smaller businesses that don't fall in that particular mold, where it be someone who just owns some investment real estate, or it's C-stores, anything along those lines. And so I got in 2008 into the commercial lending side and have been there ever since.
That's awesome. And how did you end up at Paragon Bank?
So it started out, as you said, with First American, which became AmSouth. And so I was working for a large bank, and I wasn't real happy at AmSouth. So I went to Union Planters, which was at the time a local bank, but a very large local bank. And then they went through some changes and eventually became AmSouth again. And so I left to go to a local smaller bank that during the downturn had to make a lot of cuts, as a lot of banks had to do. And I survived 3 rounds of layoffs. And then that 4th round, I was chosen. And so after a short period of waiting it out, trying to find a new job, I knew a lot of people at Paragon from working with it at previous bank. I had a lot of friends who banked with Paragon and knew, since we're a local bank, everybody who works at Paragon is from Memphis. And so banking is a very small family. And so just happened to know a lot of people there, knew a lot of people who knew a lot of people there. And a spot came open and I called a friend and said, "Hey, you guys looking?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "I would love to come work for you guys." And it started January 4th, 2010, and been there ever since.
2010. So just over 10 years now.
Just over
Congrats
10
on
years.
that. Yeah, that's
Thank you.
awesome. So tell me the differences, because you've been able to work at both of these, between these large national banks or even large local banks and then smaller local banks as it relates to a small business.
I think one of the biggest differences is, and you experienced it, meeting somebody, whether it's your commercial lender or it's your private banker or whomever it may be within the operation, meeting them and getting to know them and being able to say, "Hey, this is my business. This is what I see I'm doing. This is how I want to progress. How can you help me do it?" And whereas you ran into that problem with a much bigger bank who probably made their own decisions in Nashville or Birmingham or Atlanta or somewhere out of state, where some guy's working on a computer and doesn't know you, you and I have gone and got breakfast together, and we can sit and we can chat, and I can go back to my loan officer who is 2 doors down from me and say, "This is Neon Canvas. This is what they want to do. This is where they are today. This is where we can get them." And we just look at it from a very personal point of view. And in your situation, I approved you for whatever you needed. And that's a huge thing in banking, is knowing somebody, because you can go in a branch at a large bank and they'll have different tellers every day. There may be a different branch manager every 6 months. A lot of my clients that I have today, I got because they got frustrated with a larger bank and they just said, I'm on my 3rd business banker in 18 months. I don't know who I'm supposed to call. Well, I've been here for 10 years and I'm one of the new guys. My boss has been with the bank since it started, and longevity at a bank means a lot, and means a lot to a client, where they know that they can call me on my personal cell and say, "Hey," at any time of the day, and say, "Hey, I got this question or this issue." And if I can't fix it then because it's after hours, they know I'll fix it the next morning when I get to the office.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about relationships on this show, and I can't highlight enough how important that is and how quickly Bill and I were able to work to create that relationship, which quickly turned into a business relationship. And anytime, and it can be the smallest question, like, what's the best way for me to take payments, and having them, "Oh, okay, I've got an idea. Let's set up a lockbox. We'll deposit these checks automatically for you into the lockbox. Solutions like that a small bank can help establish for you by understanding your business and understanding your needs, I think is so important. So let's talk a little bit deeper about that business banking relationship. What should small business owners be looking for in a bank? What types of questions should they be asking?
So they need to come in and especially with a smaller bank, because then you can get in front of somebody and sit down with the business banker or the private lender or even the branch manager, whoever it is you're going to be doing most of your dealings with, and just sit down with them and explain to them what your business is and what you want to do. And then just ask them, hey, what are your loan lending guidelines? What do y'all do? Hey, for example, we meet every Wednesday and Friday morning for loan committee. So that if you come to me with a loan request, as long as I get the information from you that I need to make a proposal, I can get it approved that week. Now there might be some questions that come up that I've got to come back and ask you, and it may delay it a little bit longer, but for the most part, our turnaround time is pretty quick on loans. So sit down and ask them what you'll need to do a loan or a line or anything else you may need. Get that from your banker and ask them about themselves. Figure out what their experience is, how long they've been at the bank. If they're new to the bank, how long have they been in banking? Get another name of someone in the bank they can talk to. For example, you have my name, but you also have Mark Nance, who's our treasury management guy. So if I happen to be out, you can always get a hold of him. You have my assistant's name. If you can't get a hold of either one of us for whatever reason, because we're in a meeting or something, you can reach out to her. So you want to, as a customer, come into the bank and just get to know people, get business cards, and know who you can talk to and how to get a hold of them to help build that and strengthen that relationship. And hopefully your business banker or lender of any type is contacting you on a fairly regular basis, grabbing coffee, getting lunch, just talking and seeing how things are going, coming out of the office and seeing your shop and seeing what your business entails. But it really is just kind of getting to know them from both sides. We need to know you, but you need to know us. And that really goes a long way.
Yeah, and I can tell you personally from my experience that those relationships within the bank, may have started on the commercial side, but then, now you got to refinance your house, or maybe you want to buy a second home, vacation property, make some investments in different areas. Very quickly those relationships can spawn, and you can be working in multiple different areas of the bank and supporting you, where all of your needs are right there with one place. So that's one of the things I've really appreciated about working with a small local bank, where I can touch a lot of the key decision makers. They get to know me, I get to know them, and I become a lot more attractive to them when it comes to these lending decisions. So what are banks, speaking of attractive, what are banks looking for from a business to make them an attractive client?
So what we like to do is we want to have the whole relationship. We want to have not only just your line or your loan. We would like to have your operating account, because that's the most important thing to you. And whether it's a big bank or a small bank, the operating account is key. And if we can get your operating account, we'd like to have the lines and loans. We also want to help you get your money from your clients into your accounts. So that's where our treasury management comes in, whether they can do the lockbox like you have to accept payments on your behalf, or initiate ACHs so that you can take money from your clients on a regular basis, or so that you can pay people on a regular basis. You want to have all of that from somebody as a client. Bringing somebody in and having a small little $25,000 line of credit when they're banking somewhere else, it's a good foot in the door. But if you don't expand that relationship, it actually ends up costing you money in the long run. And so, nobody's in business to lose money, right? So we want to get the entire relationship, because we want to take care of your mortgage. We want to take care of your personal banking. We want to take care of your business banking. And that way you have myself and 4 or 5 other people in the bank that you can talk to with a question for anything, without having to go through a phone tree or going into a branch and asking, hey, who am I supposed to talk to? So when we go out looking for a client, we look for that from them on that perspective. Now, from a credit perspective, good credit scores, good collateral, good character, It's a viable business. Can you afford the payments? Are you making the right decision? And that's something else that goes along with having a small bank and a personal relationship. You can sit down and say, hey, I want to do this. And we can look at your financials and look at things and see where you want to go and say, is this really the right move for you today? It might be the right move for you 6 months, 12 months from now, but maybe today you don't need, that $500,000 boat you want to buy just because you had a good year last year. Let's sit back for a second and take a look at the big picture. So, but we look at, obviously, when it comes time for loans, collateral, cash flow, those are some of the bigger things, and credit scores, and make sure that they meet their criteria, because every bank, has to follow certain guidelines. I mean, they're just mandated guidelines for us. So now a smaller bank has a little more leeway, can step out of the box a little bit more on something like that. But, if you're not taking care of yourself as a business, not paying your bills, anything along those lines where it's affecting your credit or your business credit, or you just got the reputation around town of not taking care of your business or your payments, it's going to be hard to do anything for you, because if you're not taking care of Joe down the street with what you owe him, how are you going to take care of your bank that you may owe more money to?
Yeah, so that credit piece is huge, and what I'm hearing there is pay the people that you owe money to, right?
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
First and foremost, pay your bills.
Yep, absolutely. Pay your bills. That's we look at the business comes in and says, I need to borrow money, but you are the business, and so how you handle your personal side is a very good indicator of how you're going to handle your commercial side. And so we always look at it from what we call a global aspect. This is the business and this is how it's running. Is it doing well? And then how is this guy or this man or woman running their business? And then how are they handling their personal relationships from a financial standpoint? So are they taking all the money out of the business and then spending it, blowing it on whatever, or are they being smart with their profits and making the right investments in themselves, paying their bills? Are you going down to Tunica every night, or are you staying at home and investing wisely and preparing for the next day to go run your business effectively?
Yeah, and I know that's one of the things that we do is at any point in time, at any point in a month, I can tell you almost to the exact dollar how much money we're going to be able to take home and put in our personal accounts each month. And that's because I know exactly what's coming in and exactly what's going out. We know what our liabilities are, who we owe money to, and then how much cash is going to be left over. And then the other thing that we have to do is never drain all that cash, right? You've always got to leave yourself a little bit of buffer for the unknown. You have something like COVID-19 come at you, and all of a sudden you're running through cash or not bringing money in. You're still paying employees, you're still paying vendors and that sort of thing. If you didn't have a reserve, like you said, you went and bought a $500,000 boat or you cameled it away in Tunica, then you're not in a good financial position, and you're really not doing right by your bank either. So that's one of the things. I think it's a two-way street, where if your bank is doing right by you, you need to be doing right by them.
Right, exactly, and that's a good point. There is always that unknown factor that you don't know. So, as a small business owner, you always want to leave money in the company, take out what you need, and then at the end of the year, take out a little bit extra for yourself because you've worked hard and have earned that profit. But you always want to leave something in the company because, like you said, who knows? COVID comes around and all of a sudden everything's shut down for 8 weeks. And if you've taken all the money from the company, then if you're trying to keep your employees whole, which you should as an employer, if you can, you're paying them out of your own pocket instead of paying them out of the company pocket because you took the cash out. So
exactly.
Yeah. You just have to be ready for that.
And you are even putting yourself in a position where you can go a couple months without paying yourself if need be. I mean, those are all sound financial decisions. We're going to talk about COVID here in just a little while, but I want to talk about debt, because there's a way to utilize debt well, and then there's a way to not utilize debt well. So what is a couple examples of good debt for a small business owner?
Good debt is any debt that pays off. So that's how we feel in the banking industry. But a good debt for a business owner is, for example, term debt, whether it's real estate or it's equipment, something that you're using that is valuable to the business, that is going to help them make money, whether it's buying equipment to make that widget, or it's the real estate you have to house the business. The debt for that does several things for you. One, you get to depreciate the assets, right? And so that's a non-cash expense on your profit and loss, which is great, because you depreciate something, you have $20,000 in depreciation. That's just $20,000 you're not going to pay tax on, and that's $20,000 of cash in your company that it's not really free, but it's free, right? Because it's just a pure expense right off your profit. So, but good debt is that type of debt where you're going to be able to borrow the money, to write part of it off, and then it's going to be utilized to help you make more money. So you were talking about having a line of credit versus a credit card. A line of credit, and while both of those you can deduct the interest expense on, the line of credit is secured with receivables or inventory, or it could even be secured with some real estate. Just depends on what assets you have. But you can get a much better interest rate for a commercial line of credit versus using the credit card. The credit card rate is going to be 18, 19, 20%, just kind of depends. They're not going to be, the amount's not going to be as large as a line of credit, commercial line of credit. So the commercial line of credit is good debt as long as you use it the right way. And that is, I'm going to use this to buy my material for $20,000. And when I sell that, whatever I make out of it for $40,000, but I'm going to immediately pay that $20,000 I borrowed back and keep the $20,000 as my, gross profit. As long as you do that, then you're using that line the right way, and you build it up and you pay it back down. You build it up and you pay it back down. But if you take that line of credit and you go, I'm the business, and so the business is me, and I need to buy a new house, and so I'm going to take $20,000 off this line of credit to help me with my down payment. What are you going to sell to pay that back? And then it becomes bad debt, right? Because now you've taken money off that line that is used specifically to buy product for you to turn around and resell, and you've now bought part of a house with it. Well, you're not going to sell that house anytime soon. So then there's just some stale debt sitting on your line of credit that you're going to have to pay back somehow, and that's just going to do nothing but eat into your profits, because now it's coming out of money that you didn't have the money to begin with. And so now the money you would be earning the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months is now going to have to go towards paying that off because you didn't use that line the right way. So that becomes bad debt. Or if you use the line of credit and you do use it the right way and buy what you need to buy with it, but then you go, I kind of like having this extra cash in my checking account instead of paying the line back. I want to see that 6 figures in my checking account. Well, then your line has been used up. You can't touch it again until you use that cash, and maybe you spent that cash on something else, and now that line's become stale, and that's bad debt, because now you've got short-term assets, inventory and receivables, securing long-term debt, because now you're paying that thing off in greater time than a year, and so that's just the wrong use of credit for your company. Credit card debt can be good and it can be bad if, and it goes both ways, business and personal. I mean, it's good to have a credit card for those small short-term emergencies. If you need something, like you got to get, major car repair or something, that's fine. As long as you have a plan, I'm going to pay it off in 2 months or 3 months, I can handle it. That's fine. But if you continually carry a balance on that credit card, whether it's business or personal, you're just wasting money. And that's just interest that you shouldn't have to be paying. As a business owner, you should have some type of cash reserve set up just in case something happens, just like on the personal side. Personal side, they say you should keep 6 months of salary in savings. And after this little COVID thing, it might be more. But the same thing for a business. You have your operating account, but you also want to have a little small business savings account there just in case something comes up. So you don't have to use that credit card, or you don't have to use that line of credit to get into it. You definitely don't want to come to your bank and say, I'm in trouble, I need a loan, because it's really hard to get a loan when you're in trouble. So it's always easier to get it when you don't need it. Business is
That's
great. Let me give you a loan.
exactly. And I think people need to understand that though, because if you're tapping into your line of credit, or even worse, you've got a bunch of cash sitting in your personal bank account and you've got a line of credit over in your business, then essentially what you've been doing is paying yourself instead of paying off that line of credit,
Right.
or drawing cash from that line of credit and putting it in your own pocket. Here at Neon Canvas, I can't tell everybody what to do, but we're always going to pay the line of credit to zero before we pay ourselves anything. That's just the way that things need to be done. So you should not be taking out a line of credit or using credit to pay yourself or pay for personal expenses or buy things that you can't afford.
Yes. I mean, you should look at the line of credit it really is an advance on your profits. And so if you look at the way you look at it, where I'm going to make sure I pay this line down before I pay myself, that's exactly what you'd be doing if you didn't have the line. You'd be using the cash flow from the company to buy whatever you're buying, and then whatever's left over is yours to keep. It's the same concept, just the line gives you access to that money 30 or 45 days faster than it would be when you receive your billings from your clients. So if you look at it that way and operate it that way, that's the perfect way to use it. And that is great debt.
Yeah, we look at it like it's a parachute or kind of a net.
Mm-hmm.
Something to catch us if for whatever reason we've outlaid a bunch of cash, or maybe it's the end of the year, we've drained the profits out of the business, and now we need to tap into that line of credit for a month or two, but we got to get that thing paid down as quickly as possible.
Right.
So let's talk just a few minutes about someone who's getting ready to start a business, or maybe purchase another business, or making a large financial decision. We came to you late last year with this exact scenario where, essentially we knew we were going to buy a business. We were going to pay cash to buy that business, but we felt like we needed a larger line of credit to keep that business operating than what we had. So we came to you, we asked you for an increase in the line of credit. And then we spent cash to purchase the business, and then have been working in the next 6 months. We actually paid it off just this past month, back all the way down to zero. But that took us, 6 or 7 months to do that. So we ran the line of credit up to like 70 grand, and then we worked to pay it down. And we haven't taken a single dime of profit from that new company that we bought. So talk to me about someone who's getting ready to make that large financial decision or start a business. What should they be doing in their personal lives and in their business and on their balance sheets to get ready for that purchase?
Yeah. So first thing, make sure what you're starting is going to be a viable company. Just because you had an idea and two of your friends said, "Yeah, that's great, start a business." Don't do it unless there's a need for it in the community. But you want to get your CPA involved from the very beginning, because they're going to help you decide what type of entity you're going to start, whether it's going to be an S Corp, an LLC, you're going to be a sole proprietor, or you're going to be a true, C corporation, because there are different tax implications involved in that. Your CPA will also help you get that tax identification number you're going to need and file the proper paperwork, whether it's articles of organization or it's a charter or whatever it may be. And then, if you have an attorney, get an attorney involved in just to say, this is what we want to do. Do I need to do anything to protect myself while I'm doing this? And so, spend the money. Know that starting a business is not cheap. I know there's all kinds of great stories of guys starting their companies in garages like HP and Oracle, but you spend the money on a CPA and get their opinion. They're highly trained professionals who can help you figure that out. And then go talk to a bank with your business plan. Hey, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And your business plan needs to talk about how you're going to raise money if you don't already have the capital, what you're going to sell, how you're going to sell it, and not pie in the sky estimates, but have a pro forma where you're like, I'm going to sell, I anticipate I'm going to sell this much in the first year. And it may not be a lot because it's a brand new business and, you're selling or providing whatever service. But if I keep at it and I know I can build it up, as long as the numbers make sense, the bank will look at it. But if you come in with some 3-ring binder and we look at it and go, man, you're selling snowshoes in Florida, it's not a great fit, even though you think it'd be really cool. So just the business plan, the CPA, have all that ready, and then get involved with your bank. And your bank will sit down with you and say, Okay, so you want to do this and you need to borrow this much money. What are we going to use as collateral? Well, I've got my house and I've got a good chunk of it paid down because I've been good with my money. Okay, great. We can use that as collateral, and then that gets you started. Or I'm buying this piece of equipment, and that's what I'll need. If you'll help me with this purchase, I have this much money to put down on it, because the banks are going to want to see that you are ready to put some skin in the game, and so you're ready, just like buying a car. I'm going to put 10% down or 20% down on this piece of equipment, and so that I can make this product that I'm going to sell. So you want a CPA, possibly an attorney, and have a good business plan, and then come in and talk to your banker about what you want to do and what you need, what capital you might need to move forward, and then the banker and the new business owner will figure out what the next step is to take. And if you're buying a business, you want to get from that owner not only just their tax returns, but you also want to get their internally prepared P&L and balance sheet. While they do have some of the same information, their information is recorded differently, and there could be some other information buried in the P&L that's not necessarily on the tax return because it's more of a snapshot, whereas the P&L and balance sheet are very detailed. And get several years, 3 or 4 years from the guy you're buying the company from, and take it to your CPA and say, I'm thinking about buying this business. Please take a look at it. Let me know what you see as a professional, and have them go through it. And they'll come up with a list of questions. And you go back to whoever you're buying the business from and say, okay, hey, A, B, C, and D. And this is what I want to know. And they will hopefully be able to lay it all out for you, because what you don't want to do is get a faulty set of books and buy a bad business. So get your professional involved early on in the process, and they will definitely work with you. And like I said, don't be cheap. Spend the money, because it's going to cost them to get a business going. But you'd rather spend $1,000 today knowing if you're buying a good company or not, versus buying a company and find out in the back end that it was not the right investment for you.
That's great advice. And I'm not sure if this is kind of a question I didn't prep you for, but I'm curious, what are just some general ways to quickly value a business? Is it 3 times revenue or 10 times profit? What are some good general outliers there?
Yeah, it depends on the industry. A lot of times it really is just take a look at the net profit and do it by some multiple, whatever that may be for that industry. You can look at, and you can actually ask your bank to do this for you. They're, and I'm going to draw a blank on what it stands for, but they're called RMA reports. And they can compare that business to other businesses in that exact same industry. And they'll say, these companies are performing at this level. This is their gross profit percentages. This is their quick and current ratios, just whatever you may need, and they'll compare that business to all the industry from a local level to a national level. And so that information can tell you exactly how that business is performing. And then you can say, okay, so in the RMA reports will say, this business, this industry is 4 times, book value, or, their net profit is this, and so multiply it by 7, but their net worth is this, so multiply it by 3, or whatever it may be. But it's different for every industry. But there are evaluators out there, people who will appraise a business for you. A lot of CPAs do it, and there are a lot of standalone entities that their main focus is to go out and tell you what a business valuation is. And if you're seriously considering buying a company, it's worth that, just to have them get involved and take a look at it, to let you know if you're truly getting a good deal on it or not.
Yeah, I think it's really important to know the value of your business if you're a small business owner, so that you can properly calculate your net worth and make sure that you've got the proper security, whether it be through life insurance and that sort of things. And we'll talk about insurance one day. Today's not the day for that, but you want to make sure that you're properly covered for anything ever happen to you, that your business could still carry on, whether that be one buying out your next of kin or whatever it is. You want to have that prepared and not leave people guessing about what the value of your business is.
Exactly.
So this has all been great, Bill. I want to take a few minutes and I want to talk about COVID-19 because it's wreaked havoc on businesses all across the country. But one of the things that the government did pretty early on is they said we are going to find a way to put money in small businesses accounts. And I remember when this all happened, I was watching Fox News one night and this guy comes on and he says, we're going to give it to small local banks. And I called Bill and I said, hey, I need some money from you. And you said, yeah, I don't even know yet. We didn't know, you didn't know, I didn't, nobody even knew yet. But let's kind of dive into, now that we know, now that the dust has settled and these PPP loans have been funded, let's talk about first, how has the pandemic affected the financial markets and specifically the banks and lending?
So yeah, this obviously has been quite the experience. We as a bank, as a local bank, and they've had two issuances of this PPP funds, and one thing they did to help the local banks, to help small businesses, is during the second issuance, the first couple of days, they blocked out times during the day that only small banks of less than $1 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but technically it's a small bank. They were the only ones who had access to the SBA portal. And so Paragon could get in front of the Wells Fargos of the world and be able to get our loan applications in for our small business owners. And that helped tremendously. Now, obviously with banks, we made these short-term loans to our customers and to some non-customers, but to our customers, the SBA typically charges a fee to do any loans to any business, and they waived those fees for the businesses, which was great. And then they paid the banks a small fee for each loan they did. Now, that helps offset some of the cost to us because, for 10 straight days, all I did was PPP loans. And, those are basically 8-week loans that are completely forgiven, including the interest. So there's no money for the bank to be made off of that. And while we're getting the money from the SBA, there is still a risk that the client doesn't use the funds correctly, and then it's not forgiven, and then they're stuck with a $50, $60, $150,000 loan that's got to be paid back in 24 months, and that could be crippling to the business. Which, if that customer has other loans with the bank, and they have to, on top of that, make some $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month payment to the SBA, they're gonna say, I'm gonna pay the government first because they're the big boss before I pay my bank. Well, that's gonna hurt us. So we got a little bit of income off these loans directly from the SBA to help offset a few of those things. But from a financial standpoint, we as a bank won't know right away how this impacts us, because right now businesses are surviving on the PPP loans. Some businesses are still using their lines of credit, but the real fallout, if there is one, will happen third quarter, fourth quarter, when these businesses that just couldn't survive go under. Now we were allowed as a bank and as an industry, the auditors, regulators, they all said, go ahead and defer loan payments for people who need it if they're asking for it. And so we were able to, for some customers, take their loan payments and defer them for 3 or 6 months, principal and interest, to allow them to not make a payment for a time period of however long they wanted, so that they could concentrate on keeping their business alive without having to make those loan payments to the bank. Those payments for us that we deferred are going to all start coming back due in October and November of this year, and that's when we'll know if people are able to make those payments. So banks have a fund within themselves called a loan loss reserve, and it has to be a certain percent of your capital. And so and you put money into that account, so that if Joe Small Engine Repairs goes under and they've got a $20,000 loan, you charge it off and you take the cash from that account and pay the loan and just kind of take it off the books, right? And it is technically a loss to the bank, but you have the money, and so it doesn't hurt you as bad. A lot of banks are taking their profit for the quarter and putting it into loan loss reserve. Wells Fargo for the first quarter claimed 1 cent profit because they took every other dime they made and put it into this loan loss reserve because they're anticipating some businesses not surviving and they'll have to eat those losses. And that money they made will then be used to offset those losses. So
Wow.
we won't know what the true impact is going to be for several months. And of course, obviously, we've all seen what it's done to our 401k and investment accounts with the market getting just completely beat up over the last couple of months, slowly coming back. And I think I'm definitely not a financial advisor of any type, not licensed, but I feel like it'll come back and we'll be fine, just like it was in December 2018 when it fell off the table and came right back within the first quarter. It'll take a little while, but I think we'll probably be okay there. But we just won't know the outcome for a couple more months from a banking perspective.
Gotcha. Why do you mentioned that you guys got to get into the loan portal as less than 1 billion smaller community banks before the larger banks? One, why do you think the government did that? And two, why are smaller community banks been a better source for PPP funds than the large banks?
Well, so from Paragon's perspective, we are a preferred lender with the SBA, which means we jump through a bunch of hoops, clear a bunch of hurdles, however you want to say it, and met guidelines the SBA has set that said that, okay, if Paragon approves a loan for an SBA loan, then the SBA just accepts our approval. We have proven that we make good decisions. The loans don't go bad. We work our way through them if they do happen to go bad, and we don't burden the SBA with our decisions. So our SBA department, some other banks have to go through an SBA packager, and then that person has a contact at the SBA. And whether it's a regular SBA loan or it's the PPP loans, there is a delay having to use that middleman. So a lot of small banks are preferred lenders. And so the first go around, Wells Fargo hit their $10 billion maximum within like the first couple of days. So they sucked up $10 billion loans. And a lot of those, if you've seen in the papers or read in the business journal, a lot of small businesses are actually still waiting from the first go around because they're with a larger bank, because the larger bank went with their larger customers. Whereas with a bank like Paragon, all of our customers are, while they're big or small, they're all just equally important to us. And so whether it was a $20,000 PPP loan or a $1.4 million PPP loan, it got the same level of importance to me, helping my clients out. And so the smaller banks, the portal got jammed up because everybody was trying to get into it. So then the SBA in the second go around said, we're going to open up these blocks of time for the smaller banks to have access to our portal. Because you figure, you look at some small little town in Tennessee, there may not be a Wells Fargo in there, but there's the First Bank of whatever, and it's got 2 branches and it's been there for 100 years, and it's the only bank in town. And so but there's still businesses in that town and they still need the money. And so it gives those little guys a chance to take care of their customers, that may be in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, who are just as, that their business is just important to their family and their well-being is as the businesses here in Memphis. So they did that for us, and I say us as small banks as a whole, to allow us to take care of our clients. And I did a loan, the PPP loan, just the other day for a client, not a client, just hopefully will become a client, but for a business owner who is next door to one of my clients, and she had been waiting since the first go around and has gotten nowhere. And I got her approved and in the system in 24 hours and had her money to her the next day.
Yeah. And I sent several people your way. Every time I saw somebody, complaining online, I can't get money, I can't do this, I'm like, you need to call my bank. Or
Yeah.
You should have been doing business with my bank, because we didn't have all those hoops to jump through. And, to me, in my opinion, the PPP money has been the smartest financial decision for bailout that the government has ever made. I mean, this is something that put money right back into communities, is keeping small businesses open. And assuming we can all get back to work and beat this COVID virus, our economy should come back online by the end of the year. That's my prediction. Do you have a prediction for that as well, Bill?
Yeah, that's what you said. It makes sense. I mean, they took 2.5 times your average payroll for the previous year to allow you to hit the three most important things of your business: your employees, your rent, and your utilities. So those are a lot of times your three biggest expenses, right? So your employees can sit at home for 2 months. We could all self quarantine to the best of our abilities. They're at home. You're not going to get kicked out because you made your rent payment, and your lights are going to stay on because you're making utility payments, and the government's just going to forgive that for you. It becomes a grant as long as you use it for those purposes and you use it the right way. Now they are in the process right now of changing some terms to make them more favorable to small business owners. I was on the AIPCA's webcast yesterday. They have a weekly town hall where they go over new updates to the program, and they talked about how they're trying to change it from 8 weeks to a little bit longer time, maybe even to the end of the year, to pay people back, because there are a lot of people who are not. They decided you had to hire back people that you may have let go in February, March, or April. You've got to hire them back because you want to keep them off the unemployment rolls, right? We don't need 30 million unemployed Americans. And so trying to keep them off the unemployment rolls so they can sit at home, watch TV, and do whatever they want to do while still collecting a paycheck. Well, there are some industries where because of the COVID bonus and the unemployment, they're making more on a weekly basis than they were actually working. But that's only for a short period of time. And so Congress has realized, hey, we did this extra $600. And so that's keeping some people from coming back to work because they're liking the easier free money, but we know it's going to run out, and then they're going to want jobs back. And so what they're hoping to do is to allow the business owners to not have to use it in the 8 weeks, but to use it in, 6 months, so that they can bring those people back on board and get them back to work, make sure cash flows coming in the way it should be for the business. But, I do think that there will be some fallout, and there just will have to be some fallout for some businesses. I do think that you're going to have these companies start ramping back up. People are eager to get out. We were talking earlier off the air, but I mean, as soon as the stores opened up, my wife and her best friend, they went shopping, and they just kind of walked through the stores. They wanted to get out. They were tired of being cooped up in the house. They didn't buy anything the first day. They just kind of walked around, put on masks, and just got some sunlight, and were glad to be out. And then they went back the next couple of days and bought a few things because they saw things they liked. People want to get out. I mean, you can go to the restaurants here and you can see that they're full within the restrictions that are allowed, but people are waiting to get in. So people are eager to get back to the movies and go to restaurants and go shopping, other than, the grocery store and Costco. So it's going to pick back up. I think third quarter will be a good quarter for the economy because everybody will be back out. People, Florida opened up the beaches, so people are, while school's been out since spring break because everybody's been at home working, and if you're just studying online, you're studying online, but people are still going to take vacations. I think through the summer, I think you'll see, 30A full like it always is. People still go down to Florida just to, Disney World, places like that may not open, but people are still going to go to the beach because it's outside. You can socially distance. But while you're there, you're in Tampa or you're in Cocoa Beach or wherever you may be. You still got to spend money to go get the food you want, the place you're going to stay. And it's just little things like that are going to just trickle up into larger purchases for more of these companies. And of course, you always, summertime rolls around, so you have more construction, you have more, lawn care, things of that nature. Those industries are not going to stop. So people are still going to have that. And it's just people are going to go back to work. And I think the third and fourth quarter will be fine. I think it's just, we have to get through this, and it's just going to be ugly. maybe not watch the news so much and don't watch all the doom and gloom. Just look at it out your window and see how it is. Because, if you watch some news, it's like the world's going to explode. But I mean, if you look at what your friends are doing or what you want to do, then you're going to go out and you're going to spend some money.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. Well, that's some great advice. This has been a great talk. Of course, it went much longer than I thought it was going to, but that's the way all great conversations go. I want to end it with something fun. This is something I like to do with all my guests. It's called 3 things. So I'm going to give you 3 things. You're going to choose the one you want. You're going to discard one completely, and then you're going to give away the other one. So I'm going to give you 3 things. Here we go. $1 million, a genie lamp with 3 wishes, or your own bank. So you get to pick one to keep for yourself. You got to give one of them away, and the other one's going to be discarded.
Yeah, it's funny. My own bank. Yeah, we laugh at amongst ourselves in the office sometimes, and we'll go, well, it's not the bank of Bill. It's not the decision I'd have made, but I have to go with it because it's Paragon Bank. But, I guess I hate to say this, but I'd discard the bank. I would give away the $1 million, and then I would take the genie lamp and I'd wish for $10 million. Yes. And then I'd wish for my own bank to put my own $10 million in. Then I have a wish left that I'd keep for whatever I wanted to keep it for.
Love it. Smart man. Smart man. I would expect my banker to give a sound, solid financial answer just like that. Good job. Well, Bill, I want to thank you for coming on today and talking money with us. This was a great show. I hope you all got lots of great information from it. But if you have any questions for Bill, you can reach him at Paragon Bank in Memphis, Tennessee. He is at bill.freeman@bankparagon.com. He'd be glad to hear from you. Bill, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Enjoyed
Absolutely. It. Yeah, good. Glad you enjoyed it. Good night, everybody. On the next episode of Business School, we're going to be with my mom, Robin Rasmussen of Dinkelspiel, Rasmussen and Mink. Bill was telling us early how you needed a good attorney. So we're going to talk with my good attorney about the legal pitfalls of business ownership, why you need a good attorney on your side, and how good paper makes for good friends. You don't want to miss it, so subscribe to the podcast now. Please be sure to check it out when it drops and take a few seconds, leave us a review. It means so much today. It means so much to me. And that is all for today's show. The rest is history.